There was a time when I was a huge Sony fan. It all began with the release of the Xperia Z1 in 2013. At the time, having an enormously long battery life, a groundbreaking camera, and full waterproofing was unheard of in a single package. Since then though, Sony have lost their way with a confusing naming scheme and products that really haven't matched up to the competitors' offerings. Even I, a die-hard Sony fan, decided to opt for the enormously expensive Google Pixel XL instead of going with a Sony product. Now though, the folks in Japan think that they have done it. Today we have the latest from them, the Xperia XZS. Has this finally done what its predecessors have failed to do? Well, let's find out. Okay, so here we have the box. It's rectangular, just like the phone. Open it up, you have the phone on top, take it out with the tray. You take out this box first and you can see the 2-pin adapter for charging. And it's got a USB port here. I don't know why it's 2-pin despite being for the Singapore market, but you're gonna have to use an adapter for this. The earphones will be included in the retail box but not sent to us reviewers. Opening this up, you can, if you want to, read the manuals in here. There's one more. No one really reads them, so we just leave them there. The USB cable is right here. Pull it out. There you go, USB-C on one end, normal USB on the other. So that's you have it, the box. Design is a key component of brand identity. It is important to have a consistent design language to make sure your products stand out as compared to what your competitors are offering. Porsche certainly knows this, as the 911 has kept the same general shape for almost 50 years. This is true to an extent in the smartphone division as well. However, Sony has been releasing a lot of phones in the past few years, and to be honest, they all look exactly the same. And when your flagship looks the same as your budget devices, that's not really a good thing. And furthermore, the design is getting kind of dated with the same rectangular shape, giant bezels top and bottom, buttons on the right, and just a SIMS tray on the left. So yes, it's a nice design, but perhaps Sony, it is time to shake things up. Looking at the front of the XZS, you can see that Sony is actually the only major manufacturer left to persist with 2 front-facing stereo speakers. While in principle this is a great idea, Sony's execution has left quite a bit to be desired. Audio quality is simply not there. The volume is too soft. For comparison, the S8, Pixel and iPhone match the XZ's maximum volume at about 60 to 70% of their own. I'd honestly take cupping my hand around a bottom-firing speaker rather than this anemic front-facing speaker. Also good to see is the continued inclusion of the dedicated camera shutter key. But what I've been unhappy about since the Z5 is the volume rocker being placed so far down. It's really not easy to adjust the volume on the fly. A better placement would be right below the power button or possibly on the left side. Furthermore, if you're going to talk more about design, Samsung with the S8 has completely revolutionized the way we are going to be seeing smartphones designed. The complete and utter annihilation of bezels is absolutely stunning, and frankly it is time Sony and Google slim theirs down. With the XZS, as has been with all Xperia devices featuring a fingerprint sensor, the sensor is combined with the power button. Unfortunately, this means that you have to press the button to unlock the phone, and furthermore, the device plays its lock screen animation, which results in the unlock taking a longer time than many competitor products. The XZS is actually a hybrid dual SIM device, with one of the 2 SIM card slots being able to accept either a nano SIM or a micro SD card. Unfortunately, it does feature a camera bump, and this makes me concerned whenever I place the phone face up, especially on rough surfaces. In terms of build though, this phone is awesome to hold thanks to the wraparound Alkaleido design, which makes it into a sort of a flattened pill shape. The aluminium chassis also feels really sturdy, and I have faith that the XZS will take all kinds of abuse and emerge as unscathed as my Z2 did, with no screen protector during its 2 years of service. So battery life is pretty much what you'd expect with a 2900 mAh battery, 1080p display, and no AMOLED. It is pretty decent for day-to-day use, but if you pull up a 1080p video, it will burn through 40% of the battery in just under an hour, which is a little disappointing in my opinion. However, under 4G or Wi-Fi use, it is pretty much on par with most of the phones in its price bracket. As far as the display goes, the XZS is kind of disappointing. Even HTC, which isn't in the best of straits right now, is offering a 1440p display on the U11. Samsung and LG have been offering 1440p for quite a while now. Now, it isn't that 1080p on a 5.2-inch display is going to offer you too little of a pixel density. It's pretty much just fine, and I think it's enough. But it's just that the competitors are offering more. However, the fact that this is an IPS LCD means that it's going to have better color accuracy out of the box compared to AMOLED displays as you see in the Galaxy S8 or the Google Pixel XL. Furthermore, the oleophobic coating on this phone is out of this world. There isn't any other phone which I found such fun to just randomly swipe around. When I'm bored, I find myself idly stroking the screen. It's really just that good. So kudos to you, Sony. As far as its maximum brightness and sunlight legibility goes, the XZS's display is actually fantastic. Even under the harshest noon sunlight, I can crank up the brightness to maximum and use the phone normally like I would. Of course, color accuracy does suffer, so you can't exactly watch movies under the sun, but no phone can, and the XZS is right up there with the best in this aspect. The Xperia XZS has a Snapdragon 820 inside of it, coupled with 4GB of RAM. Now, the reason Sony aren't using the latest 835 is because Samsung has hogged all of the units for their own Galaxy S8, leaving Sony and LG to force to revert to the older 820 and 821. Now, this isn't really such a bad thing because the 820 and 821 are pretty capable chips. In fact, the 821 is simply a higher clocked version, a slightly higher clocked version of the 820, and is inside my Google Pixel XL. So I was expecting pretty great things from the Xperia XZS. However, it seemed that I expected a little too much. When watching 1080p video encoded in the X264 format, it is not good. The phone heats up greatly and eventually causes a huge audio-video lag and desync, which reminds me a lot of what happened with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 810. Now that was an issue with the chip, but here the 820 is pretty good with its thermal issues. So I'm not sure what's going on. Sony has probably flubbed the heat management on the XZS, and that's a big issue if you want to watch media on the go on this device. Otherwise, the phone is pretty snappy to use in general day-to-day usage, although it doesn't come close to the Google Pixel thanks to the Google-only optimizations that have gone inside it. However, you're not going to feel any sort of lag when using this phone if you're coming from a non-Pixel device. Software-wise, the XZS is pretty standard, offering Android 7.1 out of the box. I am, though, quite disappointed with the amount of bloat that comes along with it. As you can see here, I have split the pre-installed apps into two categories, the ones on top being those that have absolutely no business being on this device, and the ones on the bottom which pretty much overlap onto Google's pre-existing apps. I'm fine with having Sony alternatives to the Google apps, namely Album, Email, and Music, but not with random stuff like Zalora, which takes up 15 gigabytes of space total on the phone, so beware if you're going to be buying the 32GB option of the device. Thankfully, the top section of the apps here can be uninstalled, so you can free up some space if you would like. Now, while Sony's skin looks practically stock, it does come with some extra features. The result is a mix of stock and custom options such as rotating the whole home screen, ability to add icon packs, switching icon magnetism on and off, having app recommendations in your app drawer, having Google Now on your home screen, etc. However, while I appreciate this final option, changing the icon size, it is also ridiculously infuriating. Switching sizes from large to small does nothing in terms of how many icons you get to squeeze onto your home screen. The number of columns is fixed at 4, and switching to small icons results in just more space around them. Seriously guys, that's just wasted space! So the Xperia XZS has a 19 megapixels camera with the super slow motion eye camera as well. That slow motion shoots at a whopping 960 frames per second as compared to the 240 frames per second we have seen on the iPhone. So what's so special about the camera? Well, let's look at the still images first. And as you can see here, they aren't very impressive, making the same mistakes as we have been seeing all the way since the Z2. The edges are over-sharpened and the details are really muddy, indicating an excessive use of noise reduction by the post-processing engine. Why this is still the case beats me. Sony has an excellent camera division, but this can't seem to work together. Furthermore, when you look at the manual settings the camera offers, you do get shutter speed and AF lock and focal distance, but you still do not get RAW support, which is completely baffling to me. I mean, Camera 2 API has been there for a very long time already. Use it, Sony! Make your phones actually achieve feature parity. Last time it used to be get them ahead of the rest, but now they have fallen behind in terms of features. Furthermore, the video gives you an option of Full HD at 60 FPS or Full HD at 30 FPS. There is 4K at 30 FPS, but curiously, it's not in the main video settings. Now, when you go into the super slow motion, you get to record the super slow motion only for 0.2 seconds, so you better have to time it just right when you want that slow-mo to happen. Now, this is extremely hard to do, and for this video, as you can see on your screen, it took so many takes that we almost wanted to throw the phone in the water, which we don't have survived anyway. So, super slow motion is great, but as you can see, it needs a lot of light to work properly. If not, you're gonna have a very noisy screen. So in the end, in my opinion, this is really just nothing more than a gimmick, because you can't really time it that well for it to be easy to use, and you need fantastic lighting for it to work properly. If not, it's gonna look like a video from 2004. What's the point? So all in all, while Sony has tried by including an innovative feature with the camera, they still haven't fixed their old problems, and they have introduced some new ones as well. As a final note before I wrap this up, I want to talk about the connectivity of this phone, which is horrible. Really. A lot of times when in the same place where my Pixel XL is getting 5 bars of Wi-Fi, this thing will be getting 3 or 2 or even less. A lot of times when this is showing 5 bars of Wi-Fi, in the rare times that it does, it'll sometimes simply stop responding to any internet usage, and you'll say the network is not available at that moment. It will continue on like this for about a minute or two, and then it'll resolve the problem on its own. I'm not exactly sure what is going on with the connectivity on this device, but it is one of the poorest I have seen. The situation applies for 4G as well. If I'm in the place where I can get 5 bars on my Pixel, I'll get 2 bars on the XZS. Even if I'm getting 2 bars on the XZS, the connection will sometimes just refuse to load for 1 or 2 minutes. So yeah, Sony, you need to fix the connectivity on this. So now we come to the conclusion. Is the XZS a good phone? Well, it is, but the problem is there are competitors which are better. The G6 for just $100 more gives you a better design, a better display, better camera, smaller bezels, and as such I can't see myself recommending this phone to you guys or friends or family. The XZS suffers from too many problems for it to stand out above the rest, even though it's got the motion eye camera. Its camera still has the same issues of over sharpening and muddy details that you used to see all the way back in the Z2. The bezels are really big, the speakers aren't that good, the performance is bad when video watching, connectivity is terrible. So Sony tried their best, but it's just not worked out, and they need to have a look at what's been going wrong and come back to it from a fresh perspective.